Hello all, and welcome to my first attempt at a Hardcore Nuzlocke. I've seen a lot of these being done lately and they seem like fun, so I thought why not give one a try for myself. And what better game to start with than Yellow? Gen 1 is where my love for Pokemon started, and Yellow made several changes that will make the game more interesting. From Red and Blue, obviously. Now, since this is my first attempt, I won't be playing with any type restrictions or randomization. I'll leave a full list of the rules I'm going by in the description, but basically, only the first Pokemon in a route can be caught. If a Pokemon faints, it must be permanently boxed. All Pokemon must be nicknamed, see if you can guess the theme. No overleveling past the gym leader or champion's ace. Finally, battles must be left on set mode. Also, as a bonus rule, I won't be allowing myself to use the starters except for Pikachu, and no legendaries. Also, I play with species and dupes clause, so I will be able to re-encounter until I get a new or unique counter in the route. Unfortunately, in Gen 1, with the limited amount of Pokemon, that means that there will be routes I will not be able to get anything on. But, such is the nature of doing a Gen 1 Hardcore Nuzlocke. Let's do this! So I name my character Mr. Houndoomer, and my rival Soren, since Oak is so obsessed with Pokemon that he can't remember his own grandson's name. I grab the potion from the PC and go downstairs to tell my mom that I'm going outside to play, just to be kicked out because the TV told her so. Listen here, buddy, I carried you into this house and I can carry you back out. I start to wander around, now a homeless 10-year-old, when I see something in the grass. Oak yells and startles it, so naturally it attacks. Luckily, Oak has balls and throws one at it to subdue the beast. He then brings me back at his lab to yell at me more in front of Soren. I start to cry and he offers me a Pokemon if I stop. My plan worked. Only Soren shoves me out of the way and takes it instead. So Oak gives me the beast from earlier. I name the fearsome beast Gilligan, naturally. Soren challenges me, and after a heated battle bringing both Pokemon down into the red, we manage to squeak by with the victory. Gilligan decides to go against the norm and walk around with me. I say cool, but he still doesn't like me. On Route 1, I catch Pidgey and name it Pugsley. I go to Route 22 hoping for a Mankey for Brock, but run into a Rattata instead. Catch it and name it Eddie. Next in Viridian Forest, I run into a Caterpie, thankfully. I name it Wednesday. And finally on Route 2, I catch a male Nidoran and name it Gomez. While grinding up for the second rival fight, Wednesday evolves into Metapod and learns Harden. This move is actually pretty important for my Brock strategy with no Mankey. I decided to fight the rival again to make him evolve Eevee into Jolteon, because that would be the hardest for Pikachu to deal with, if he makes it that far. Rival time. Spearow goes down in a couple Thundershocks, and next is Eevee. I paralyze it to start and get hit with a crit tackle. I'm pretty sure I can take one more, and I'm worried about switching into it, so I go for a growl to lower its attack before I switch, but it misses the second tackle. I go for one more growl and get hit with a sand attack and decide it's time to switch. Pugsley is up and gets Tail Whip, negating a growl. I go for a couple sand attacks of my own for safety and finish it off with 3 gusts. While grinding up to the level cap for Brock, Wednesday evolves into Butterfree and learns Confusion. And with that, my strategy is ready. Oh, hey Jigglypuff. Pew pew to you too. Huh? Gilligan, wake up! I'm not super worried about Brock, but I want to play it smart, so I decide to test out my strategy against the junior trainer in his gym. The strategy is simple. Lower Geodude's attack with Growl from Gilligan, and then switch to Wednesday. Then I can max out her defense with Harden and sweep his team with Confusion. The strategy works great on the trainer. Brock's turn. I get 6 growls on Geodude and Gilligan gets knocked down to 10 HP. Time to switch and start setting up. By the time I get all 6 Hardens off, Wednesday is at 29 HP. After that, it's 3 Confusions for Geodude. Onyx goes down in 3 as well, but not before getting a weak bind and Screech in. With that, Brock is defeated and that's 1 badge down. I stock up on potions and Pokeballs and head to the next route, battling all the trainers on the way since the next level cap is 21 and I want to avoid grinding in the grass as much as possible. On Route 3, I run into and catch a Spearow and name it Endora, a Zubat in Mount Moon, which I name Grandmama, and I pick up the Magikarp from the peddler in the Pokemon Center outside Mount Moon and name it Lurch. On my way through Mount Moon, I take the Helix fossil. I knew that if I didn't say what I took, you'd all ask. Now that I think about it, everyone asks anyways. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I'm a big fan of my dry bread and have it memorized at this point. Love your work. Next is Jessie and James, and they're actually a bit harder than I expected. I had Lurch out front for switch training, which is very difficult on set mode by the way. They start with Ekans and I switch to Grandmama. In Gen 1, Bug was super effective against Poison and vice versa, so Leech Life will do good damage and heal me up. But Ekans hits a 3-turn wrap for about half and I decide to switch to Gilligan to paralyze it since it's faster as well. It hits another wrap, but I'm able to Thunder Wave it and get poisoned from Poison Sting for my efforts. I switch to Gomez and the paralysis works. I get it to the red with Horn Attack and switch back to Grandmama to finish it off and get some health back. I was hoping for Coughing next, but they send out Meowth instead. I switch back to Gomez in time to take a crit scratch. It uses Bite, but luckily no flinch. I hit it with double kick and it barely hangs on. Not wanting to risk losing Gomez, I switch out to Pugsley, who takes yet another crit, this time from a bite down to 15. But he learned quick attack earlier and finishes off the Meowth. 2 down, 1 to go. Coughing comes out and I hit it with a sand attack and get tackled to the red. I send out Grandmama and hit it with a leech life. It does maybe a 5th, not good since Bug is physical and Coughing is pretty tanky. I confuse it with Supersonic and it hits itself. Another leech life takes it to almost half and it breaks through the confusion and the sand attack to hit a crit tackle, taking Grandmama to 12 HP. I stay in to hit another leech life and confuse it again once it wears off the next turn. Looking back, I really should have just switched, but luckily I'm not punished. Coughing hits another tackle to take us down to 3, and I finally switch to Wednesday and finish it off with a confusion. I way underestimated them and it almost cost me. Wednesday got to 15 off that battle, though, and learned Sleep Powder, a fantastic move. I've never taken a Butterfree to the Elite Four before, and I want to try that in this Nuzlocke as an add-in challenge. With that, Mount Moon is done. On to Cerulean, where I catch a Sandshrew and name it Opie. This will be great for several gym leaders, so I'm pretty excited about this one. Before taking on the rival, I want a little more power, so I evolved Gomez into a Nidorino. Now here I made a critical mistake. I thought he led with his own Sandshrew instead of Spearow, so I started with Wednesday. I go for a Sleep Powder for a safe switch, but it's faster and hits a peck for over half health, and it wasn't even a crit. Thankfully, Sleep Powder hits and I switch into Gilligan, who takes it out in 2 Thunder Shocks. Now his Sandshrew comes out, but Wednesday is too weak to switch into. I send out Gomez and go for double kick. It does maybe a 3rd, and I get hit with a sand attack. Try horn attack, but it does about the same, and I get sand attacked again. I get 1 more double kick to take it into the red before missing 8, count them, 8 double kicks, and get taken down to 2 HP from scratches. I switch back into Gilligan to finish it off with a quick attack. Next is Rattata, who goes half off a Thunder Shock and hits a Hyper Fang for massive damage, taking Gilligan down to 6. I switch to Pugsley, who takes a tackle and quick attack before taking it down with 2 quick attacks. Eevee comes out and I get off a couple sand attacks before going down to 6 health from a tackle. I decide to switch into Wednesday to put it to sleep, and it misses its tackle and goes to sleep. Perfect. But then instantly wakes up. Not perfect. So it's a mix of Sleep Powder and confusion when it stays asleep to finally take it down. There were no abilities in this gen, so no early bird, just bad sleep luck. I beat the trainers on Nugget Bridge and pick up the Charmander, which again, I have no intention of using. I name it Hermit. Next is an Oddish, which I was really hoping for Misty. Oddish or Bellsprout would work fine, and I end up with both. I name Oddish Lily and Bellsprout Morticia. After taking out the trainers on the way to Bill's and defeating the Rocket for the Dig TM, I check the route south to Cerulean and pick up a Jigglypuff and name it Ellie Mae. After a bit more grinding, Pugsley evolves into Pidgeotto and Lily evolves into Gloom. Now we're ready for Misty. The strategy is simple. Gilligan and Lily for the sweep. Staryu goes down to 2 Thunder Shocks and Starmie goes down to half before I switch to Lily and finish it off with a few absorbs. Badge number 2 in the bag. On to Vermilion and several more encounters, including an Abra named Samantha, and a Drowsy east of Vermilion that I really want to add to the team. We catch it, but not before suffering our first casualty. Gilligan, you served us well. Rest easy, little buddy. Man, that crit really hurt. Looks like no Bulbasaur for us. Anyways, I named the Drowsy Fester. And finally, a Diglett we named Cousin It. And before you say anything, yes, this is how it was originally spelled. Gomez learns Thrash, so I evolve it with a Moonstone and add some much needed power to the team. While training for the rival fight, Grandmama goes down to a critical water gun. That one hurt too. Really wanted Golbat for Erica since it would be 4 times resistant to her grass moves. SSN rival time. I replaced Gilligan with Fester and Grandmama with Cousin It in preparation for Lieutenant Surge. I start with Cousin It for extra XP, then switch to Gomez, who tanks a peck and wipes Spearow out with a single Mega Punch that I taught it to replace Tackle. Next up is Rattata, and for some reason I still haven't figured out that switch training doesn't work well with trainer battles in Hardcore Nuzlockes. So I weaken it with Lily, put it to sleep, and switch to Cousin It. Thankfully, it doesn't wake up and goes down to 2 scratches. Sandshrew comes out and I'm not confident with that low defense, so I switch out to Opie, whom I taught Dig, and it's an easy KO with that and Slash. Last is Eevee, but 3 slashes takes it out as well. Hey, what's so interesting in this trash can? Warner guy next time. With the SSN behind us, next is... Hey, wait a minute. Did the captain pickpocket my wallet? No! After reporting the captain to the police officer in the middle of Vermilion, it's time for a bit more training. Surge should be easy with 2 ground types who know Dig. make that one ground type with Dig. Eddie's back on the team. At least Opie evolves into Sandslash to help make us ready for Surge. I really worked hard on my strategy for him too. Big brain stuff here. You ready? I'll lead with Sandslash, use Dig, take out Raichu. Brilliant, I know. Now while I attempt to catch this Nidoran, I figure it's a good time to explain where I messed up a little bit. When I set up for this challenge, I forgot to click the box for impossible evolutions, which means that I can't get Pokemon like Golem, Machamp, Gengar, or Alakazam, which is unfortunate because those are great ones to add to any team. I can still use the second stages, but probably won't unless I need the type coverage. With that out of the way, Nidoran goes to the box, but not before receiving another great nickname from the theme, Clara. Also, Eddie evolved into Raticate. I went back to the cop to ask about my wallet, but she gave me a Squirtle instead. Are you in on it? I named the Squirtle Skipper. Replace Eddie with Pugsley and run into a Machamp, which I catch and name Jethro, followed by a Geodude, of course. 3 out of the 4 of the trade evolutions I can't fully evolve, and Lavender Town is still to come, but I catch it anyways and name it Otis. While stumbling around Rock Tunnel, Fester evolves into Hypno. We make it to Celadon, pick up Fly, and run into a Doduo that we catch and name Lubby. Grab the Eevee as well and name her Marianne. And finally, grab a drink for the guard to allow us into Saffron. Erica's level cap is 32, but I'm still not too worried and have plenty of room, so I run through the rockets in the game corner. But before I can take on Giovanni, Jessie and James come back for round 2. This time I'm prepared though, and we start off coughing against Wednesday. Sleep Powder and 2 Confusions easily take it down. Meowth is next, and I send out Opie and take it out in 1 slash. Not sure that crit mattered. Last is Ekans, who goes down to another critical slash. Man, this Sandslash is a beast. Giovanni's next. He leads Onyx and I start Fester. We put him to sleep with Hypnosis and Giovanni uses a Guard Spect, and then 2 Confusions easily take him out. Next up is Ryhorn, who suffers the same fate. Last is his Persian, and this one is faster and prone to crits. It lands a Screech before getting put to sleep, although it immediately wakes up on the next turn as I hit it with a Confusion for about a 3rd damage. Giovanni seals his own fate though, as he uses another Guard Spec and Hypnosis lands again. This time he stays asleep as 2 more Confusions finish him off. Eric is next. I'm still under the level cap with most of the team being upper 20s. I was planning to sweep with Pugsley, which learned Wing Attack just before the cap, and I taught Fly to. She leads Tangela, and I of course start with Pugsley. It goes down to 2 Flies. Next is Weepinbell, and Fly takes it down to red health, but it lands a critical acid to drop us down to 45 HP, but it goes down to a Wing Attack the next turn. Last is Gloom, and I don't want to risk another crit, so I send out Fester, who immediately gets paralyzed. Gloom goes for Petal Dance for decent damage, and Fester is fully paralyzed. Another Petal Dance takes us to half health, but our Confusion hits this time and does the same. Gloom gets confused from the Petal Dance, and I take the opportunity to switch to Wednesday. It hurts itself in Confusion, but I'm not taking any chances and put it to sleep. A couple Confusions, and we get our 4th badge. Lavender Town Rival Fight. Nothing too troublesome in this one. Bureau goes down to a couple Mega Punches from Gomez. Lily takes out Shelter with a couple Absorbs. Vulpix gets taken down with 1 Mega Punch. Sandshrew hangs on with red health from a couple Double Kicks and lands some Sand Attacks, so we switch to Wednesday and take it out with Confusion. Then the worst sleep luck I've ever seen when Eevee comes out, when Wednesday misses 4 Sleep Powders in a row. Puts it to sleep on the 5th, only for it to wake up after 1 turn of sleep. You've gotta be kidding me. 3 Confusions take it to a 4th, but a couple Quick Attacks also take Wednesday down to 22 HP. So I switch to Opie and finish it off with a slash. The tower is pretty easy with Fester and Wednesday. Fun fact for you, in Gen 1, there were the same amount of Ghost type moves as there were Ghost Pokemon. Lick, Confuse Ray, and Nightshade to Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar. Anyways, I brought it up because of course my counter in the tower was a Ghastly. I catch it and name it Thing, and complete my quartet of trade Pokemon that I can't fully evolve. The Marowak attacks at the top of the tower, but is easy with Lily and Absorb and Sleep Powder. Jessie and James seem to be stalking me with some kind of grudge and attack yet again, but Wednesday is tired of dealing with them and wipes all 3 out with a combination of Sleep Powder and Confusion. My plan at this point is to take on the gym leaders in order, which means Koga is next. But I have to be careful since the level cap for both him and Sabrina is 50. I grab the Pokeflute and head for the Snorlax south of Lavender. On the way I pick up the TM for Swift and teach it to Pugsley. I'm pretty excited about the Snorlax encounter because I really love them and want to add it to the team. I mean, come on, look at that squishy face. It's basically a ginormous teddy bear, but with its overall stats and move versatility, it would be a great addition to the final team. Plus, like I said, I do like it a lot. Also, I'm only allowing for 1 Snorlax encounter, and since I'm trying to catch this one, I'm not allowed to try for the other. It puts puts up quite the fight, but I manage to catch it and name it Barney. And no, not after the purple dinosaur. I grab the super rod and get to fishing. This really opens up a lot of encounters and allows for a good water variety now. I find a Horsea that I catch and name her Ginger. I also go back to Vermilion and find and catch a Tentacool. I name it Thurston. I add Ginger and Barney to the team and start grinding up Ginger in Diglett's cave, which is great for training Pokemon in. I decide to take the long way to Fuchsia on the docks to battle the trainers and get a few more encounters. I catch a Farfetch'd and name it Gomer. On the way, Ginger evolves into Seadra and we run into a Venonat. I catch it and name it Jet. South of Fuchsia, I run into a guy who says, "Dogs and burgers on special today," to which I ask, "What kind of dog?" While training against some bird keepers, disaster strikes as Barney goes down to a critical drill peck. This is the most painful death so far. There goes my cuddly tank. And to make matters worse, it almost does the same to Fester. Yikes. Welcome back to the team, Eddie. I go to the Safari Zone with a brilliant strategy. I'll use repels and put my strongest Pokemon in front to avoid weak ones and make it to Area 2. It works. Now I just need to find the elusive Kangaskhan and catch it. Well, there goes that. It's not a Kangaskhan, but it is still really a good Pokemon. So I catch it and name it Darren. On the route below Cycling Road, I fish and find a Shelder. I catch it and name it Aunt B. On Cycling Road itself, I run into a Ponyta, which I'm super excited about and will add some great type diversity to the team, only to find out that my box is full. In Gen 1, if the box was full, it wouldn't even let you attempt to catch the Pokemon. Well, that's an automatic forfeit. I decide to grind the team up in the Rocket Hideout in Saffron since we're still a bit underleveled for the next couple gyms. While in there, I discover an odd thing. I can't teleport out of the building, but I can dig my way out from the second story. I take a break after beating all the Rockets to take on the Fighting Dojo, but as you can imagine with Fester, it's just a string of one-shots. After a few battles, Fester levels up to 37 and learns Psychic. Naturally after that, the Dojo Master goes down in 2 Psychics, and I pick Hitmonlee for my prize. I name it Larry. Have you figured out the theme yet? Promise there is one. After that, it's time for the infamous Silpco rival fight, and boy does he live up to the hype. He leads with his Sand Slash, and I do the same. I go for a dig as he misses his sand attack, but I don't even do half damage as he hits the sand attack the next time. I go for Slash hoping for the KO with a crit. I get the crit, but it's not enough to knock it out. But One Swift easily finishes him off. Now I'm expecting Cloister here, but to my surprise he brings out his Ninetails. With sand in its eyes, Sand Slash pulls through for the one shot with Dig. I don't think the crit mattered in this case. Now he sends out his Cloister. And here's where I make my mistake. I'm expecting a Clamp, so I switch into Lily, whom I know can take the hit. But he goes for Aurora Beam instead. It hits hard, but I know if I can put it to sleep, then I can easily take it out with Mega Drain. I decide to go for it, but somehow Cloister is faster and Lily goes down. That one hurt. I switched into Eddie since it's neutral and go for a few Hyper Fangs, but it starts boosting its defense and then clamps us to a quarter health. I then switch into Ginger since I know she can outspeed and take it out with a Surf, but it confuses her on the switch in. She hits herself twice before finally taking it out with a Surf. Man, that thing was tough. Kadabra's up and I get a free switch to Fester thanks to a turn 1 recover. 2 headbutts later and it's on to Jolteon. I keep in Fester and go for Psychic, forgetting about its pin missile, and of course it gets a 5-hit one. Psychic does good damage and then I switch to Opie who finishes it off with a Dig. Being underleveled is really starting to prove difficult in this run. After the heartbreaking loss of Lily, I'm giving a Lapras to ease my suffering. It's a nice gesture, but no one can ever replace Lily. I replace Lily with Morticia and go back for Giovanni. On my way, Team Rocket blocks my path and I am in no mood for their shenanigans. 2 digs and a slash later and they're blasting off again. Now it's Giovanni's turn. He leads Nidorino and I lead with Morticia, purely for some experience. I switch to Fester and proceed to wipe his entire team with Psychic, although to my surprise, both Persian and Nidoqueen took 2 in order to take them out. I talk to this guy who just brags about being rich and says he can give me anything and then proceeds to give me a Master Ball and says not to tell anyone. Is this illegal or something? While training up Morticia, I run into a Goldeen in the Celadon Pond, I guess you call it. I catch it and name it Marilyn. While grinding up Morticia, she evolves into a Weepinbell. During this grind, which takes forever, I feel like it's a good time to point out some things. This is where the level cap starts getting difficult. Sabrina and Koga both have a cap of 50, which means I'll need to go into one of those underleveled if I want to use my current team to avoid going over the level cap. Blaine has a cap of 54 and then Giovanni's is 55. Not much wiggle room in there when you consider that I still have to face the gym trainers and Pokemon Mansion. Once Weepinbell gets to 38, it learns Razor Leaf, its final great move, so I get a Leaf Stone from the department store and evolve it into Victory Bell. After grinding for what felt like forever, I'm finally finally ready to take on Koga and Sabrina. I decided to take on Koga first because he only has one level 50 as opposed to Sabrina's 3, although neither of these gyms are difficult as you can imagine with my current team. The plan is to start with Fester and spam Psychic. Venonat goes down to 1 Psychic, as does number 2 and number 3. Venomoth outspeeds to my surprise, but just hits us with a weak Leech Life before going down to a couple Psychics as well. Now it's Sabrina's turn, and she's even easier. I lead with Eddie and take out both Abra and Kadabra with a Hyper Fang. Alakazam outspeeds but goes for a turn 1 recover of all things, and then goes down to a Hyper Fang as well. 6 badges down. I head to Cinnabar Island and go to revive my fossils, and that's when it hits me that I never grabbed the old Amber. So I go back and grab it and revive them. I name the Omanite Professor and the Aerodactyl Andy, but I like our team so far, so into the box they go. In the mansion, I run into a Growlithe and chuck an Ultra Ball at it before it can roar us. Luckily it works and I name it Major. We really are missing a fire type on the team, but I kinda want to see how far I can get with this team for now, so into the box he goes as well. I complete the mansion and take out the trainers in Blaine's gym for extra experience. Next up is Blaine himself. I don't expect much trouble, so I go in underleveled with Seadra and Surf. Ninetails goes down to a sliver off of 1 Surf after hitting us with Quick Attack. I'm expecting a Super Potion here, so I go for an Agility to get Seadra faster than his last 2 Pokemon, but it's Gen 1 Blaine and he goes for a Quick Attack again. So Water Gun finishes it off. Rapidash is up next and it goes down to a Surf. Last up is Arcanine, and Surf almost takes it out in 1 hit and it goes for Takedown. Thankfully it doesn't do much and we finish it off with Water Gun. I decided to go to Seafoam Island and find a seal that I catch and name Goober. I decided to take a small break just to show you how much of a difference IV training, or EV training as it was in Gen 1 and I believe Gen 2 can make. Took Hitmonlee and went back to Route 1 and trained on Pidgeys and Rattatas who give speed EVs, and it goes from 59 to 67 in 1 level. That's an increase of 8 for 1 level. Anyways, after another grind to 55 to match his Ryhorn, it's on to Giovanni. He calls himself the world's greatest trainer, but he's been beaten by a child multiple times so far and is only a gym leader, not the champion. Pretty sure that makes him weaker. He leads with Dugtrio, and of course I start with Opie. Now Dugtrio could be very scary for my team with Fisher, which goes by speed in Gen 1, and Earthquake, a move that all but his Persian knows. Fortunately, this is Giovanni, which of course means he uses a guard spec and thus sacrifices his Dugtrio to a single slash. Next up is Persian, which is a crit machine. Thankfully it just uses Screech and not Slash, but I failed to knock it out with a slash of my own. Good old Giovanni uses another guard spec instead of actually healing his Pokemon, and it goes down to a Swift. Next up is Nidoqueen, and with that defense drop I decide to switch into Ginger, which turns out to be a safe switch because he uses a 3rd guard spec. I use Surf and it's an easy one-shot. Naido King is up next, and I forget that it has Thunder and use Agility to utilize the badge boost glitch, power up my Surf just a bit more, and he goes for Thunder. My heart sinks, but luckily it misses and a Surf takes it out as well. I don't think Thunder would have taken out my Seadra, but there was no reason to take that risk. Finally, it's his Rhydon, but you can guess how this one goes. One more Surf finishes things up and we collect our 8th and final gym badge. I decided to go straight into the rival fight since the level cap for Giovanni is 5 levels higher than his highest Pokemon. He starts Sandslash and I lead with Ginger and take the opportunity to set up 3 agilities before getting taken down to half health. I then proceed to take out Sandslash, Execute, and Ninetails in 1 shot. Cloister does survive a hit surprisingly, but the rival just uses a regular potion of all things and it goes down the next turn. Kadabra is up but suffers the same fate as the first 4, and finally is his Jolteon. Ginger did a fantastic job against his first 5, but at half health and Jolteon, I'm worried about Thunder. I switch to Opie expecting a Thunder, but he just goes for Pin Missile, which isn't a threat either. Then he goes for Agility and a Dig takes it out. Pretty easy fight really, after which he tells me that I need more practice. The nerve of this guy. Just before Victory Road, I run into a Primeape that I catch and name Granny. In Victory Road, I run into my final encounter, an Onyx, so I chuck the Master Ball at it, which just feels wrong, and name it Genie. And so ends the name theme. I realize I could still grab an electric type from the power plant, but with the team I have now, I feel like I have enough type coverage to beat the league. On my way through, I run into none other than the legendary Moltres, but my rules don't allow for the use of legendaries, so I kill it and move on. Finally, Indigo Plateau, home of the Elite Four. It's been a fun run up to this point, but now it's all or nothing. I spend a bit more time grinding up to the level cap of 62 to match Lance's Dragonite, buy some items for healing in between battles, which is allowed, and getting my final movesets ready. Here's how the team looks going into the league. I'm confident we can win, but not that everyone will make it. Here we go. First up is Lorelei. She leads with Dugong and I start Morticia. The strategy is simple. Put Dugong to sleep, set up 6 growths, and sweep with Razor Leaf. It goes really well, except that every single hit is a critical hit, which in Gen 1 bypasses all stat changes, including increases on my side, which makes Jinx a 2-hit KO, but fortunately I put her to sleep first for this specific reason. Lorelei is down. Bruno is up next, but I'm honestly not expecting much of a challenge here. It is Bruno after all. First up is his Onyx, because that makes more sense than giving him a Primeape or a Poliwrath apparently. I lead with Wednesday, and yes, I realize I'm at a serious type disadvantage. That's where the moves make a huge impact. I taught her Reflect and Solar Beam just for this fight, so I start off by putting the Onyx to sleep, but it immediately wakes up. So I put it back to sleep and set up a Reflect to decrease any physical damage that I may end up taking. Then it goes down easily to 1 Solar Beam. Hitmonchan is up next, and I go for Psybeam, which crits for a 1-hit queso. Hashtag 1-hit queso. Yep, still promoting that. I think the crit may have mattered on that one, and that I probably should have played it safe and just put him to sleep first, but oh well. I don't realize this in time for the Hitmonlee, but fortunately, another well-timed crit takes it out as well. Next up is Poliwrath. Onyx number 2. Sorry about that, my brain was talking sense for a minute. I go for the same strategy as the first one, but my sleep powder misses the first time. Uh-oh. He goes for Slam instead of the 4-time super effective Rock Slide because it's Bruno, but thanks to the Reflect, Wednesday easily brushes it off. It goes to sleep the next turn, and I go for Solar Beam. Onyx wakes up the next turn, but in Gen 1 you couldn't attack the turn you woke up, so it goes down as well. Last up is Machamp, and this one can be pretty scary, but a sleep powder and 2 Psybeams later, and Bruno, the mascot of the Elite Four, is done. I wanted to sweep with Butterfree just to show that it's not the pathetically weak Pokemon that many claim it to be. With the right moveset, it can be a strong addition to a team and just wiped out an Elite Four member by itself. Respect for Butterfree. Agatha is up third. Now normally she can be a rather difficult one to beat with status conditions and confusion, but I have a Hypno with Psychic, so this goes about how you'd expect. 5 Psychics and 5 KOs. The last Gengar did outspeed, but just went for Dream Eater on an awake Pokemon, which of course failed before going down. Finally, we've made our way to the 4th and final member of the Elite Four, Lance. He talks a big game, but I've got a secret weapon against him and his dragons, and her name is Ginger. I start with Wednesday and put his Gyarados to sleep to safely switch her in. I waited until the league to teach her Ice Beam just to make sure I could use it here. I kept Agility to help outspeed the Aerodactyl and to utilize the badge boost glitch here as well. I set up all 3 Agilities before he wakes up. I connect with Ice Beam, expecting a kill only for it to get a crit and nullify the boost I just got. Not only that, but Gyarados counters with a Hyper Beam and I am terrified. I need Ginger to sweep his team so that I can advance to the champion with a full team and have a perfect league run. Thankfully, the added bust from Agility turned Ginger into a tank and Gyarados goes down to 1 more Ice Beam. The rest of his team follows suit. Dragonair 1 goes down to Ice Beam as well as number 2. Aerodactyl goes down to a Surf and his ace Dragonite goes down to a 4-time super effective Ice Beam, and that's the Elite Four done. And with no deaths. But as we all know, there's one final trainer, the champion and my rival, Soren. It all comes down to this. Can I win my first ever Hardcore Nuzlocke with a deathless league run? Let's find out. I lead with my good old reliable Wednesday against his Sandslash and go for the sleep powder, and it misses. So much for reliable. Thankfully, he just goes for a Poison Sting, which doesn't do much or poison her. The next sleep powder connects and I switch into Ginger, but it wakes up on the switch. I want to set up an Agility or 2 so that I can sweep his next few Pokemon, but I forgot to heal up in between, and an Earthquake takes a bit more than I'm willing to risk, so I use a Surf and take it out. 1 down. I'm really hoping for Executor for an easy KO, but he sends out Alakazam next. I don't think I can take it out in 1 shot, and I'm pretty sure a Psychic would take out Ginger, so I decide it's time to let Eddie have a moment to shine. He takes a Psybeam on the switch in, and no surprise that it does almost half. But I retaliate with a Body Slam for the KO. No. Alakazam lives on a sliver of health and takes Eddie down with his Psychic. So much for a deathless league run. Good night, Eddie, old boy. Don't forget to howl at the moon before bed. Soren uses a full restore but can't handle an Earthquake from Opie. Executor is next and I need to decide if I can risk sending in Ginger or not. I decide to keep Opie in and go for another Earthquake. It does over a half with a critical hit and Opie gets seated. I almost switch to shake it off but decide not to risk it and go for another Earthquake to finish it off, forgetting that the first hit was a crit so it survives, but just goes for Leech Seed again. So 1 more Earthquake takes it down finally. Next is Cloister, and I don't like the matchup, so I switch into Morticia, just to get hit by a crit Aurora Beam down to 38 HP. I risk putting it to sleep and decide to set up Gross as long as it stays asleep. I get 4 before it finally wakes up, and take it out with Razor Leaf, which of course crits. Ninetails is up next, and for some reason I decided to stay in, put it to sleep, and finish setting up growths. Not sure why I didn't switch to Ginger after the sleep powder. Guess I really wanted to use those buffs. Ninetails goes down to 2 acids, but then Morticia levels up, which normally would be good, but that resets my badge boost buffs. Jolteon is last, and I decided to stay in anyways and try for the sleep powder one more time, but it outspeeds and Morticia finally goes down to a 4 times super effective pin missile. So long, mi amor. But her sacrifice is not in vain, as I'm able to safely switch in Opie and take out the Jolteon with an Earthquake, winning the run and granting us the title of champion. Well, I did it. I beat Pokemon Yellow under Hardcore Nuzlocke rules. I had a lot of fun with this run and have some ideas for challenges in the future, including some solo runs and other Hardcore Nuzlocke, so stay tuned for those. If you enjoyed this run and would like to see more, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Also subscribe, as that helps the most, and share with a friend to help me make more videos like this. If you've made it this far, then you are awesome, and I really appreciate you. Until next time, this is Mr. Hounddimmer saying I'll see you all in the next challenge. Thanks all!